Welcome to Secret Story, I called Elaine. Hello, hey baby, you can come home now, the asshole is gone forever. I will explain it all. Come on home. As I hung up, I heard the garage door open right away that I went to the kitchen door and saw Elaine running to me. I pulled her to me and kissed her softly, holding her tight. She felt so good in my arms. I was unsure if this would ever happen again when she left yesterday that I went to her SUV and brought in her bags. My wife was home again. What had I just witnessed? Matthew and some other men were coming after Alfonso. What happened? As I went inside, my heart was beating wildly. I was not sure what was going on. Alfonso seemed calm and in control. A heck of a lot more than I was. Elaine, are you okay? Alfonso asked me. No, I'm not. What the hell just happened? I will explain, but first, welcome home, come kiss me and hug me. I was unsure we would do this again yesterday, so this is special. I went to him and held him. I always knew I would be back in his arms, but when I left Al yesterday, I could see he was not sure I would be returning. I am here, baby, and will be forever if you want me, your decision now. Okay, come sit at the table, and I will tell you what just happened. Alfonso brought over a bottle of rose wine and 2 glasses. He poured both full and started to tell me. Elaine, when you left yesterday, I was concerned that you might not return. I was so pissed at Matthew that I wanted to make him suffer even more. I had a lot of time to think and knew I needed to know more about Matthew. I looked up his website and saw many 5-star ratings, so I read them. As I went through them, I saw some first names and last initials that seemed familiar to me, and I saw that some of them were ladies that you know. I wrote down 4 of them and called them. I started with Constance. She was the one who referred Matthew to you, wasn't she? Constance told me about her affair and that she was divorced because of Matthew. Did you know that? No, I knew she was divorced, but her husband ran off with some girl he worked with. Jesus, that is crazy. Well, Elaine, Constance's husband caught her. He divorced her, then he ran off with the girl, so it happened after the divorce. After we talked, Constance was very accommodating. I called them all, spoke with them, and then to most of their husbands and ex-husbands. They all knew about Matthew and their wives or ex-wives having affairs with him that I arranged for them to join me on a Zoom call last night. We put a plan together to run Matthew out of town. I told them I expected that Matthew's ego would make him come after me, and I may need their help. They all made themselves available if I needed them. I also enlisted Paul across the street to use his wrecker trucks that I never thought it would happen so quickly. Especially with the shape Matthew was in. But then today, when you called, I texted the husbands and called my 2 best buddies, and you called the other 2. Then I called Paul, and he had his wrecker trucks come over to create a diversion by faking that they would tow off Matthew's guys' trucks. The complaint was that derelict vehicles were blocking his house. A brilliant idea Paul had that I went up into the attic and set up my sniper rifle with the muzzle silencer. I loaded it with a 5th-round clip of rubber bullets. I would be able to shoot all of them from here silently if I needed to. The wrecker trucks came, and a big argument started. It was a perfect time, so I took the opportunity to take out 3 of the men. Matthew was the first. I shot him in the right hip, and he crumbled. Then I shot the guy arguing with Paul in the upper back of the shoulder. Then, I shot another guy standing next to him, hitting him in the same spot. They both dropped to the ground like they were dead, but they had just passed out from shock and pain. The other 2 guys scrambled to their trucks and took off. That I called Matthew and gave him only a minute to get out of the neighborhood, or things would worsen. I also told Matthew that he was safe from the angry husbands until next Saturday, but after that, it would be open season for him, so he should move out of town. For added excitement, I shot out the windshields on the 3 trucks. And they all crawled in, keeping low, and drove away. So, Elaine, your little affair was not so innocent and has created other significant problems. Oh God, Al, I am so sorry for what I did. I had no idea Matthew was such an idiot. Elaine, from this moment forward, you must wipe Matthew out of your conscience, mind, and memory. His name will never be mentioned again unless it is to announce his death or disappearance, either of which could happen if he does not leave town by next Saturday. Dr. Wilson told me I needed to do the same thing, but now I could see the situation's urgency. I have to do it now. So, Elaine, tell me about your mom. You said you had something funny to tell me. And we could use a little humor right now. I thought it was odd that Alfonso wanted to talk about my mom, but yes, a little humor might be good now before we addressed the elephant in the room. Maybe he was trying to ease my concerns or make our conversation easier when we got there. Okay, Al, you will find this funny, I think. This morning, after we texted, my mom came to the door with coffee. My God, Alfonso, my mom has an incredible body. Then she sat beside me and told me about her new man. What? You're kidding, your mom has a man, a squeeze. Al laughed. Yes, his name is Eldred. He lives up the street and gets this, he is black. I don't care about that, but my God. Al. I am so happy for her. She was so excited she wanted to tell me about it, but I couldn't hear it, so I stopped her. Wow, Eldred has a hot woman on his hands. Al chimes in. We both laughed, lightening up the moment. But I knew it would only last a few seconds before the ugliness would start. After our laughter stopped, I saw a look of concern on Elaine's face. She knew the moment of truth was upon us. A sadness, almost gloom, settled on her. It was the moment of confession and explanation. Elaine, it is time. I need you to tell me what the good doctor has helped you with. Start wherever you want to, but leave nothing out, understand? Elaine looked at me and swallowed hard. First off, I need to tell you, Alfonso, that what I did had absolutely nothing to do with you or anything that you did or didn't do to or for me. You have been my perfect husband, and I love you so much. You did not deserve any of the pain I have put you through or any of the events that I have caused to happen and made you participate in. All of this is mine and Matthew's fault. So please do not blame yourself or feel bad about what you have done or will do. I beg your forgiveness, please. I love you so much. Elaine's statement sounded completely sincere, and I agreed with what she said. I knew that Elaine was remorseful. I also felt no guilt for what I had done to Matthew yesterday or today or anything that I might do to Matthew in the future should more activity be necessary. It seemed that the doctor had made a good start with Elaine. Now, what else had Elaine learned about herself? Elaine went on to tell me about both sessions she had with the doctor. She told me what Dr. Wilson had explained to her so that I was clear. Alfonso, Dr. Wilson explained that the perfect situation had occurred. Once that happened, neither of us could be denied the pleasure we could give each other. I thought back, and Al, no, I never had. I have also never been in a situation like yesterday. Alfonso, I know this is hard for you to hear, but it was true at that moment, nothing. My love for you or our marriage meant nothing. Elaine stopped and looked at me. I was shocked at what she had said. I am sure the doctor explained it this way, but hearing it in Elaine's graphic words and description was very hard. Chills ran through me. I felt sick, and I am sure I looked terrible. Alfonso, are you okay? You look terrible. Oh no, baby, have I gone too far? Are you okay? Have I told you too much? Suddenly, Elaine was terrified that what she told me was too much. No, no, what have I done? I snapped out of my daze and reached over to Elaine. She had her face in her hands and was crying. No, Elaine, it is okay. Just hearing your graphic description of what had happened emotionally is extremely hard to hear. I must hear it, but it is so hard. It makes me wonder if I can ever be what you need emotionally. I have my doubts after hearing what you have said. But you need to continue, please. I pulled Elaine to me and held her, letting her cry. Elaine, you have to finish this. I need to hear the rest of Dr. Wilson's talk. Please, let's get through this. Elaine pulled away and stood. She walked around and went to get her some water. She left the room, returned, sat, and drank the water. She looked at me with sad eyes. Elaine, I do not need to hear about what you and Matthew did. I already know that from hearing you for so many hours. I do need to hear how you and the doctor finished today. Then I have some things to say. I explained. Alfonso, I am so sorry for all of the pain I have caused you and the doubts you have in me. I want you to be clear about what happened with Matthew and that there is no way it could ever happen again. It was an emotional tsunami that just happened. I understand my body better now and could resist him or any other man and will forever. You are my man. Hearing her words and the conviction in her voice made me feel better. Elaine, what happened at your doctor's session today? Al, it was good. We reviewed yesterday's session, my feelings, and my understanding of what and why it happened. We went over some other issues that could affect us. I set appointments with the doctor for me for 2 months and 2 with her for you in the next 2 weeks that we talked about STDs. She said that Matthew may have infected me. And I needed to be tested. She said there was a clinic down the street from her office, so I stopped there on the way home and was tested. We will have the results in a few days. I am sad that you will not want to touch me until you know I am clean. I understand, but I want you badly, and now I can't have you. This is just another issue that resulted from my stupid decision. As I listened to Elaine, I was glad they had discussed these things, as they were a significant concern. I am glad that Elaine is going to continue sessions with Dr. Wilson and that she has made 2 appointments for me to talk through my issues and help us to put this incident in perspective so we can truly put it behind us. It was near dinner time, and I was hungry, a good sign. My angst was calming down. There was no rush tonight. It was my turn now. I needed to share my feelings and introduce the requirements for Elaine and me to remain married. I would start with a summation of my feelings. Elaine, I love you more than my life, so I will not divorce you. That was my choice, yet not my first option. I chose not to go in that direction but will share them with you. It was so devastating to me that I honestly wanted to walk out to my shop, get a shotgun from my gun safe, load it with deer shot, then walk to the bedroom door, turn on the light so you both would clearly see it was me. Your loving husband so devastated that I would empty 1 barrel into each of you, finishing your cheating lives. Then, in my utterly insane state of mind, I would pull out my Glock, put it to my head, and end my own life as well. It took every ounce of love and self-preservation in my body to resist that, or be what you need emotionally. I have my doubts after hearing what you have said. But you need to continue, please. I pulled Elaine to me and held her, letting her cry. Elaine, you have to finish this. I need to hear the rest of Dr. Wilson's talk. Please, let's get through this. Elaine pulled away and stood. She walked around and went to get her some water. She left the room, returned. Sat, and drank the water. She looked at me with sad eyes. Elaine, I do not need to hear about what you and Matthew did. I already know that from hearing you for so many hours. I do need to hear how you and the doctor finished today. Then I have some things to say. I explained. Alfonso, I am so sorry for all of the pain I have caused you and the doubts you have in me. I want you to be clear about what happened with Matthew and that there is no way it could ever happen again. It was an emotional tsunami that just happened. I understand my body better now and could resist him or any other man and will forever. You are my man. Hearing her words and the conviction in her voice made me feel better. Elaine, what happened at your doctor's session today? Al, it was good. We reviewed yesterday's session, my feelings, and my understanding of what and why it happened. We went over some other issues that could affect us. I set appointments with the doctor for me for 2 months and 2 with her for you in the next 2 weeks that we talked about STDs. She said that Matthew may have infected me, and I needed to be tested. She said there was a clinic down the street from her office, so I stopped there on the way home and was tested. We will have the results in a few days. I am sad that you will not want to touch me until you know I am clean. I understand, but I want you badly, and now I can't have you. This is just another issue that resulted from my stupid decision. As I listened to Elaine, I was glad they had discussed these things, as they were a significant concern. I am glad that Elaine is going to continue sessions with Dr. Wilson and that she has made 2 appointments for me to talk through my issues and help us to put this incident in perspective so we can truly put it behind us. It was near dinner time, and I was hungry, a good sign. My angst was calming down. There was no rush tonight. It was my turn now. I needed to share my feelings and introduce the requirements for Elaine and me to remain married. I would start with a summation of my feelings. Elaine. I love you more than my life, so I will not divorce you. That was my choice, yet not my first option. I chose not to go in that direction but will share them with you. It was so devastating to me that I honestly wanted to walk out to my shop, get a shotgun from my gun safe, load it with deer shot, then walk to the bedroom door, turn on the light so you both would clearly see it was me, your loving husband, so devastated that I would empty one barrel into each of you, finishing your cheating lives. Then, in my utterly insane state of mind, I would pull out my Glock, put it to my head, and end my own life as well. It took every ounce of love and self-preservation in my body to resist that desire. So, Elaine, like a scared wimp, I sat through all those hours while you were receiving and giving pleasure to another man. It wasn't very unpleasant, but I was not enough of a man to stand up for his wife to take her back away from the man. What kind of man am I? A nothing. I decided that if you wanted another man, you should have him, and I would leave your life and allow you to have the life you wanted, which did not include me, Elaine. That was the lowest I had ever felt in my entire life. The woman I loved no longer wanted me, so did I still want her? That question swam around for hours while I decided what to do. I stopped. Elaine was sitting there, her hands folded on the table. Tears were rolling down her face, and she looked in complete shock. She was breathing slowly, and her eyes were fixed on me. She had been ripped apart by what I had said. She deserved that and more. Elaine, I decided that I would destroy the man, not kill him, but hurt him in a way that would remain with him for the rest of his life. As for you, I did not know my plan that day, but I have that all worked out now. As you know, I acted when you came into the room that morning, and I hope I have damaged the man for life. The additional pain he received today and the wanting his demise if he does not leave town will be icing on the cake. Elaine, I love you, but the hurt you have put on me cannot just go away. It will take time, which will be painful for you and me. Our lives will never be the same. My love for you will never be as pure as it was. The trust one once had in you must be earned again over time. I stopped again. Elaine had not moved an inch. She was frozen where she sat. I continued. Elaine, I understand that you feel this was a one-off event, but how did you allow this to happen? The doctor may be correct, but if your love for me was as strong as you profess, my question is how? I do not understand. I know that you cannot answer that question. Maybe you can answer that question in 2 months after many sessions with Dr. Wilson. I hope so, because the answer may be critical to our long-term relationship. Elaine, look at me. Are you okay? You have not moved since I started talking. Yes, Alfonso, I am okay. I am trying to take in what you are saying to me, making sure that I understand what I have done to you and how badly I have hurt you. I cannot express the shame and disgust I feel for myself at this moment. Al, it is one thing to know why this all happened and that it may have been out of my control, but it is yet another thing to know that I may have permanently destroyed the true love and trust we have enjoyed. If I have done that, I don't know how to live with myself. Elaine slumped down, laid her head on her arms, and cried that it had become very intense, so it was time for a break. More painful things were coming. So a shower and dinner should be following. Elaine, are you hungry? I am. Let's order Chinese and take a hot shower together as we wait. Then we can eat and finish our talk. We love Chinese, so I knew the answer. I called Peking Wok Restaurant and ordered our regular order. It would be about 45 minutes before the food arrived, so I pulled Elaine down the hall and into the bathroom. I turned on the shower and looked at Elaine that I stood and walked out of the shower. I dried and put on lounging pants and a t-shirt. The doorbell, the food was here. I put it on the table, trying to quiet down my anger. She brought it up. I mumbled aloud. She should never have done that. I went to the fridge and poured a beer and a glass of wine. I sat at the table and waited for Elaine. She had not come out, and that worried me. What was she thinking? Elaine, come on, the food is getting cold, I called out. Minutes went by, and Elaine still had not come. I went to find her. Elaine, what are you doing? The food is getting cold. As I finished my words, I walked into the bedroom. Elaine was not there, but I heard the shower still running. I went into the bathroom, and Elaine was lying on the shower floor. The water was cold, and she was not moving. That I shut off the water, picked her up, and took her to bed. I grabbed some towels and dried her, rubbing and warming her up. Her eyes were open now but blank, showing nothing. Like she looked sitting at the table. But worse, she looked like she was in an actual catatonic state. Elaine, Elaine, wake up, baby, wake up. I lightly slapped her cheek, no response. Then I remembered I had some smelling salts in my med kit. I covered Elaine and ran to get my kit. That I opened the bottle and passed it under her nose. Suddenly, her head jerked up, and she gasped for air. Turning her head away from the potent smell, that I put the salt away and pulled her up into my arms. Elaine looked at me. What happened? I don't know. I left the shower. The Chinese food arrived, and I set the table and put out the food, expecting you to get dressed and come out behind me, but you didn't. I called you, but you didn't answer. I came to get you and found you on the floor in the shower. I tried to wake you up and finally used smelling salts. You sure woke up then. Are you okay? I had told her 95% of the truth. She would learn the rest later when she could handle it. Right now, I just wanted to warm her and get some food into her. Everything else could wait for now. I stood and stripped. I crawled into bed with Elaine, holding her body to me, wrapping as much of me around her as I could, feeding her my body heat. She felt cold against me, but feeling her body was beautiful. That we must have fallen asleep. Elaine moved and looked over at the alarm. 10:46 p.m. I was still holding Elaine like I was before. She was warm now. Then she began to shake and heard soft sobbing. And continue to. I remember what happened. I said the wrong thing, and you walked out, leaving me in the shower. At that moment, I just wanted to die. I have thrown away the love of my life and will never get him back. Her sobs grew stronger. That I held her, letting her vent her thoughts and release her emotions. I will be right back. I need to put the food away. I slipped out of bed, pulled on a robe, and went to clean up. That I walked back into the bedroom. Elaine was wrapped around my pillow, sleeping. I covered her with the sheets and a blanket and left her. The rest of the night would have to wait till tomorrow or until Elaine was in a better place. Part 4 coming. Welcome to Secret Story, Part 5, Final coming. I couldn't sleep. I nearly exploded and barked. I had to get away from Elaine. I stood and walked out without a word, leaving her sitting in the shower to think about what she had said. That I dried off and dressed in shorts and a t-shirt. I went into the kitchen and poured myself a large tumbler of Jack. I drank half of it as I entered my office and turned on my computer. I wanted to be clear about what would happen if I divorced Elaine. It was not what I wanted, but it may be my only way forward. My heart was broken, and even though the doctor had clinically explained how the cheating debacle had happened, her explanation did not explain why my wife could have forsaken me that whole night. Then there was the question, what if I had not been in the kitchen that morning and had not stopped them? Would they have been in bed all day long with Elaine never giving me a thought? it pained me greatly to admit that that would have been what would have happened had I not been there. Then what would have happened? This was a significant, looming question that had to be answered, but how? I focused on looking at the computer screen for the answers to my divorce questions. I was not happy with what I was reading. As I expected, the man gets shafted by the law while the cheating wife benefits and gets everything even though they were the guilty party. It was good that we had no children. Or it would be even worse for me that I drank a swallow of Jack and wondered if Elaine was genuinely sorry about what she had done or if she was using that to, hopefully, save our marriage. That I heard Elaine outside the door. She stood there for several minutes, then the door opened, and she looked inside. I glanced at her, then back at my computer, and began to fill out the divorce papers I had found online. I wanted Elaine to see what I was doing. She would panic. Then she had to read the documents and understand just how badly she had hurt me and possibly destroyed our marriage. I knew that logical thinking had to start so that correct decisions could be made about our future. Elaine moved into the room. But I paid her no mind and continued to type. She moved behind me and could see what I was typing. Words flowed onto the screen, filling out each section. Then I heard a gasp and a loud thump behind me. I turned to see Elaine lying on the floor, her hands over her face as she began to sob. That I said nothing and turned to finish filling out the divorce form. I printed it out and moved on to another form I completed and printed. Now, I was ready to continue our talk. That I turned to Elaine. I was pretty miffed after her statement and reading the bullshit divorce information. Sit on the love seat. We have to continue with my part of our discussion. I do not want to hear any more crying or sniveling. You created this problem, and either we fix it so we can move on together, or I will swiftly end it, divorce you, and you will be on your own. Do you understand? Elaine looked at me with horror as she scrambled up onto the love seat. She looked like shit, with stringy wet hair and no makeup, with tear stains marking her cheeks. I leaned over and handed her the divorce document I had printed. Elaine, you need to read this, I said, and I left the room. Where are you going? Elaine asked in a panic. Just read the document completely. I will be back in a minute. I closed the door and walked to the kitchen. I leaned on the counter, thinking about this whole debacle. My emotions, doubts, and fears were all over the place. Adrenaline had been coursing through my veins for 2 days, and finally, I was crashing. The true gravity of the situation was pressing down on me. That I finally thought about myself without emotion, thinking about what this all meant. I challenged myself to recognize my feelings about what I had seen, heard, and experienced. It had all been like an action movie, only in living color, real life. I sat down and drank a glass of water, rolling the glass in my palms as I pondered Elaine's and my future. What did I want now? Was it different than what I wanted 48 hours ago? What about Elaine? She was different now. I had never seen this woman before, and she worried me. We had been a tight couple, madly in love and always in lust for each other. I never thought of Elaine being pleasured by another man. That had been painful to see and hear, creating doubts in my mind and soul about whether I was the right man for her and whether she was the right woman for me. Could we overcome this mess, succeed long-term, and build the family we both wanted? Could I trust her without questioning her every move for the rest of our lives together? God, this was a monumental moment. The decisions I make now will rule my and Elaine's lives forever. I had to be entirely clear-headed to make these decisions. I needed to be away from her for maybe an hour until my mind cleared. I walked back to the office door. Elaine, I am going outside. Please let me be until I come back inside. Thank you. Where are you going? Why? Elaine asked. That I left, returning to the kitchen, where I got a large water bottle. I went out onto my deck and lit the fire pit. I took out an Indian blanket and sat in a lounge chair, wrapping myself in the soft blanket. I sipped the water and closed my eyes. The night was fantastic, and my nerves were pretty well shot. I tried to relax using the breathing techniques I had learned years ago. I finally calmed, and my head began to clear. Everything that had happened began to play across my mind, like a major movie production being edited, leaving parts on the cutting room floor, and keeping only the parts that fit together to make the story clear and understandable. After watching the edited story version, it slowly became clear what needed to happen and how I had to do it. I kept my eyes closed, and another short movie played. It made me smile that I finished the water, shut off the fire pit, and went back inside. In the kitchen, Elaine was sitting at the table. The divorce documents were lying before her, and a pen was also there. That made me wonder if she was giving up and why she was willing to sign the papers so quickly that I shook my head, clearing those thoughts away that I went to the office and brought back copies of the second document. I sat down and looked across the table at Elaine. She looked so sad, defeated, and confused. The discussion we were about to have would not make it easier for her, but in the end, she would understand. Elaine, the last 24 hours have been horrible for me in a mixed bag of incredible pleasure, mixed with pain and disgrace for you. What you have done, for whatever reason or under whatever circumstances, has devastated me. I am unclear about who I see now, but you are different. What Matthew did to you when he took over your mind and body and what you allowed to happen with Matthew has changed you. I am unsure if it is for better or worse, but you are now different in my eyes. What happened has created significant conflict for me and questions that must be answered. I struggle with these questions. They must be answered to my satisfaction before we can move forward. Elaine, how you answer these questions and your attitude from this moment forward will determine our future as husband and wife. Think hard before you answer. Do you understand? Elaine nodded her head yes. No, Elaine, say it. I need your words. Yes, Alfonso, I understand. I want to fix this mess I created. I love you, Alfonso, and cannot live without you. I am so sorry for what happened. Tears began to run down her cheeks again that I hated seeing Elaine crying. I knew she was an emotional wreck. I felt that she was sincere about her love for me and her sorrow for what had happened. The doctor's explanation was clear, but I still needed to hear from Elaine in her words how she allowed Matthew to dominate her. Elaine asked me, Alfonso, why is this discussion necessary? You have already prepared these divorce papers, so this must be what you want, casting me aside for what I have done. Maybe I should sign them, and this will all be over. Her words surprised me. Was she so willing to throw us away? Was I? I know I had confused her when I gave her the divorce papers to read. I hoped that would shock her, but it also caused her to pause, thinking I may have already decided on our future. Elaine, this has been hard for both of us. I need you to know that divorce is a clear path I can take. It is not the path I want, but you must know that divorce is on the table. If you are not the woman I can love unconditionally and who will love me in the same way, I will exercise the divorce, and we will be finished. It has to be that way. How could we build a family, if I am unsure who you are? Can I trust you from this day forward? I had no doubts about that before I arrived home. More tears rolled down Elaine's cheeks as I spoke. I knew that she could see all my pain and uncertainty about her and had no idea how to fix us. That decision lay entirely in my hands. So now it was time to get down to it and finally end this disaster. I had questions that Elaine had to answer clearly. They would mark the path forward for our futures. They were simple questions that may be hard for Elaine to answer. I looked at Elaine with no emotion. Elaine, please answer these questions. First, do you love me unconditionally and no one else? Oh God, yes, Alfonso, I love you more than the air I breathe. What I have done has nothing to do with love. I will always love you and will never forsake you again for anyone else. I showed no emotion at her answer. It was what I hoped I would hear. The sincerity in her voice made it clear to me that Elaine loved me and only me, just the same as I love her. Second, Elaine, if you love me as you say you do, please explain to me in your own words just how you could have allowed Matthew to dominate you the way he did for all the many hours that he did. Then afterward, I would have never known about it. Would you have told me or kept it a secret? The barrage of questions hit her hard. Elaine's face showed deep distress. Tears rolled down again. I was not sure if she knew the answers to all the parts of the question. Alfonso, I will answer what I can. Would I have told you what had happened? That is a hard question. I hope I would have had the strength to admit what I had allowed to happen, but Alfonso, I cannot tell you. The guilt would have consumed me and forced me to say to you that I was happy with Elaine's answers. She could not know the answers about the future or the next day, it would only be speculation, but her answers were clear. Thank you, Elaine. I believe you. I confirmed, easing some of her angst, that I left the divorce papers on the table and slid the second document face down beside it. Elaine, please do not look at this document. We will discuss it later. One last question. What do you think your punishment should be for your transgression? You need to tell me what should happen next. Elaine looked at me, surprised by my question. I thought it was fitting that Elaine named her poison before I sentenced her to her punishment, that I left the table, walked into the garage, and left. I had just had to face my loving husband's tough questions. I knew he was trying to understand what happened and how it all happened. I was not sure he knew those things, so how could I give him an answer? Then Alfonso asked a complicated question. What should my punishment be? Did that mean he was not divorcing me? Or maybe that was my punishment, and he wanted to know if that was what I wanted, too. No way is divorce what I want. So, what was my punishment to be? I had no idea what to suggest. I knew I needed counseling, but I really did not know what else. I had to leave that decision to Alfonso. I deserved whatever he decided. I don't want a divorce. That would kill me. That I looked at the divorce documents again, tore them in half, and laid them back on the table. If Alfonso wanted a divorce, he would have to print the papers out again. I saw the other document and wondered what it was. Alfonso told me not to look at it until later. Well, it was later as far as I was concerned. I picked up the document and looked at it. The postnuptial agreement was printed across the top. I had heard of this before but did not understand it. That I read through the document. It sent a chill up my spine. It was a contract between Alfonso and me for the rest of our marriage. It stated that if either of us cheated or we divorced for any reason, the offending party would receive virtually nothing in the divorce settlement, a measly $10,000 and all our personal belongings. If there were children, you would lose custody and have strict visitation for a few years. The house would remain with the parenting party until the children were away, and then it would be sold and split 70/30%. Oh God, was I going to have to sign this? Please, God, no. I will never cheat again. That I reread it, then put it back face down on the table. That I received a text from Alfonso. Where was he? Al's text. Elaine, text me when you are ready to complete our talk so we can decide on our future. My text, yes, I am ready now. Where are you? Al's text, I went out to pick up something. I am on my way home now. Be waiting for me in the kitchen. I got each of us a glass of water and sat at the kitchen table. I heard the garage door open. Alfonso came in with a bag. He smiled and sat it on the table. He sat down and looked at me. So, Elaine, what have you decided for your fate? I placed the bag on the table. Elaine would be shocked at what was inside. The items were all part of her punishment. I sat down and looked at Elaine, then at the table. The divorce papers were torn in half, and the postnuptial agreement was moved. I am sure Elaine read it. Elaine, what have you decided your punishment should be? I asked again. She looked at me, and I could tell that she had gathered herself and was able to talk responsibly about our situation. That made me happy. Hopefully, we will be able to get through this and have a plan for moving forward. A few fun but demanding things would be brought into our lives. Elaine would not like some of them, but she would like some, and all were necessary for us to move on together. Since Elaine had not answered me, I asked again. Elaine, what is your punishment going to be? Elaine looked at me and picked up the torn-up divorce documents. Well, it will not be divorce, I'll tell you that. She said, tossing the papers at me. Wow, Elaine must have eaten some oats or something. Oh, really, I said back at her, picking up the pieces across the table. I take it you didn't like that idea? No, I hate the idea. I don't think you like the idea either. Otherwise, we would not be sitting here, and you would have had me served already. She looked a little smug. But when I looked at her sternly, she changed her look. Maybe she was wrong. Well, then, what is your punishment to be? I asked again. Elaine looked down. I don't know what kind of punishment you want for me. I don't have any ideas. I do know I need to continue counseling. I was not surprised. What punishment was justified for this type of infidelity? I was unsure but would enjoy it, hence the things in the bag. This was an opening that I had not expected, so some of my fantasies would be realized as part of Elaine's punishment. Elaine reached out, picked up the postnuptial agreement, and waved it at me. I guess you expect me to sign this agreement? Yes, that is one required item you must sign. And counseling is the other commitment you must make, I stated. Elaine looked at the agreement, then at me. Would you be this mean to me, throwing me out with almost nothing? The look on Elaine's face quickly morphed from smug and self-assured to concern and despair. Elaine, this agreement is to protect both of us. It works both ways. If I cheat on you or you on me, the same thing happens to the cheating party. It is fair to each of us. It will never even matter unless you plan on cheating on me again. So, sign it and forget it. I picked up the pen, signed the agreement, and pushed it across the table to Elaine. She stared at it for a minute and then looked at me. There was sadness in her eyes. And I knew she felt concerned. Elaine knew that just signing the postnuptial agreement admitted her guilt and failure as a wife. It was also proof that I may not be able to trust her as I always had before. Elaine signed the agreement and ran from the room. I heard the bedroom door slam. She was crushed. I knew our discussion was delayed for a while. I signed the agreement and ran out of the room. I went to the bedroom, slammed the door, and fell on the bed. I sobbed for a good while. I had made a huge mess of our lives all for nothing. I didn't even make it happen, it just did. I wonder how we can ever get through this. It was clear that Alfonso needed me to sign the agreement to feel I was committed to being faithful to him and our marriage. So I signed it. That I rolled onto my back, looking up at the ceiling, trying to think through what I had done, thinking of what Dr. Wilson had told me and all the things I felt. I feel so cheap. I really hate myself now. I understand how Alfonso must feel. We had a perfect marriage and were committed to each other with undying love. Now, that is all in question. I know that I love Al with all of me. It kills me to know how badly I have let him down and hurt him. Alfonso loves me just as much as I love him and is trying to work through his feelings, doubts, and concerns about us as a couple and our ability to build the family we want. The door opened, and Alfonso stood there. He looked at me with a mix of love and hate in his eyes. Something I had only seen the day this happened and hoped never to see again, yet here it was again. Elaine, we have to finish this. I cannot continue in limbo any longer. We must decide to move on together or divorce. I refuse to go another day while this decision is being made. So, get out of that bed and come to the kitchen, we have decisions to make. He barked in the harshest of tones. Alfonso turned and walked away. He frightened me, but he was right. I was being defensive when I had no right to be. That I slipped off the bed, followed Alfonso to the kitchen, and sat across from him. Elaine, it seems that you cannot tell me what your punishment should be, so I have some things that will happen as punishment and become a part of our life from here on. You will not like some of them at first, but I am sure that over time, you will enjoy them as our life broadens and we start our family. You do want us to have a family, correct? Oh yes, Alfonso, I want a family badly. I want us to start making babies when you feel the time is right. Hopefully, very soon, Elaine said with a smile. There was relief that we were not divorcing. Well, then, Elaine, there will be rules you must live by starting today. I have written them out for you so you can remember them. Once you agree, I will print a final copy for you to sign. First, Elaine, from this day forward, you may never deny me. Second, you will agree to play in any fantasy in the bedroom that I desire. You may also have any fantasy you desire, neither of us will deny anything. I reached into the bag, bringing out a box. Third, Elaine, you will wear this chastity belt for the next 6 months anytime I am away from you. That means every day at work, home alone, or when I am out of town. I will have the only key and unlock it for you when I am home. Elaine looked at me in astonishment. She picked it up and examined it along with the 2 accessories. She looked at me and asked, "How does it work?" "I will show you later." "Oh, Al, I am not sure." I cut her off. "Elaine, this is not an option. It is going to happen." I stated firmly, item was for me. "Oh, my God, Alfonso, you have planned this all out." Elaine's voice was excited. "Yes, I love you, Elaine, and never want anything like what has happened ever to have the chance of happening again." "Al, what is this?" I could see that Elaine was mystified by all the toys I purchased and the wonder in her eyes as she considered the future. Elaine looked at me. "Alfonso, I am so sorry I cheated on you. I promise it will never happen again. Dr. Wilson has been straight, her counseling will ensure I understand myself. I love you so much and never want to lose you. I have learned just how much you mean to me." That I stood, smiled, and grabbed Elaine's hand, pulling her with me to the bedroom. Clothes dropped in the hallway as we went for the first time in days. We were together again. We loved each other, and Elaine's transgression had passed. It was just us again. Matthew was only a bad memory. We fell asleep in each other's arms, sleeping peacefully again. Epilogue, birth control stopped, and several months later, we had made a little one to be born just before Christmas. Skip forward 3 years that we are happier than ever. We have the cutest little girl, Eve, for Evelyn. We also have a little man in the oven baking away, ready in about 3 months. Our life is good. No. I have to say our life is great.